The definition of diversity may be as diverse as the term itself. For me, diversity is simply the simultaneous existence of 7 billion different realities. In other words, there are as many realities as there are people on this planet. Now, understanding, respecting, and ultimately celebrating this diversity may not be so simple. First of all, it calls for a vision on how to make it possible for all these different realities to coexist in peace. Second, it requires a set of actions in order to implement that vision. On the Hello Mahalo vlog series, we will be speaking to people from all over the world who have taken that step to transform their vision into action. We hope to inspire you. Joining us today is Jessica Sanfilippo. Jessica was born in Liberia, raised in Italy and the United Kingdom, and she currently lives in Germany. As a mature student, Jessica discovered the term third culture kid, or TCK, while studying at the University of Münster. And after her master's degree, she began working at the Münster University, and she's currently researching on third culture kid literature and transculturalism. Thank you so much for being with us here on the show today, Jessica.
Hi.
Great. So why don't you tell us a little bit why you developed this interest on this topic in the first place?
I began studying here at the Münster University, as you mentioned, and I was enrolled in a program called National and Transnational Studies. And for our foundation course, we were given a little form to fill in and to discuss in class. And one of the questions was, please define what home means to you. And I was starting to panic a little because I didn't know what to say. And I was really happy when the bell rang. And the lecturer said, well, take the questions back home with you and we'll discuss it next week. So I went home a little confused. And I started thinking, well, what does home mean to me, really? And I couldn't find an answer because my parents live in Italy and I live in Germany now, and Italy is no longer home, and my other passport country, which is the United Kingdom, isn't my home either anymore, and Germany, even if I've been living here for years now, still isn't my home. So I really didn't know what to tell my lecturer the week after. So then I Googled something like individuals with, I think I Googled something like individuals with no home and many passports. And I came up with this term, third culture kid. And I was speechless because I realized this is what I am. And suddenly all the pieces of the puzzle got together, and I realized I'm not alone.
So can you explain to us this term third culture kid so that viewers can get a better idea of what it actually means?
This term, third culture kid, was coined in the 60s by the USIMS, two American sociologists who were carrying out research on American expatriates in India. For them, the first culture was the home culture of the American expatriates. The second culture was the Indian host culture. And for them, the third culture was the shared spaces of these two groups. So a culture within a culture. Later on, Ruth Hill-Husim began to be interested exclusively in the children in this expatriate American community, and began analyzing the experience of the children. But nowadays the term TCK is used to define children or individuals who were raised on the move. For example, due to their parents' career choices, they had to move continually from one country to the other. And typically they don't belong to one specific nation, but to a group of similar individuals who grew up internationally. And later on, as I wanted to specialize in literature, I was really happy when I came across the term third culture literature, coined by a professor in America, Vader. And she argues that there is a group of novelists, for example, Jan Martel, who wrote The Life of Pi. I don't know whether you know this novel, but it's quite a famous novel. It won the Man Booker Prize. Or Isabel Allende. And she says that third culture literature is fiction written by individuals who moved a lot while they were children. And then I looked into novelists who grew up on the move, and then came across another researcher, Ariana Danino, who wrote about transcultural writers. And that paved the way then for further research into a new term, transculturalism.
Before we move on to transculturalism, I actually wanted to ask you, are there psychological characteristics that third culture kids share in common with each other?
Yes. Later on, two other researchers, Pollock and Van Reken, analyzed more recent third culture kids, and they came up with what they call a TCK profile. And they say that typically TCKs are restless, rootless, so they have this migratory instinct. And benefits, of course, are they have very good language skills, observational skills, cultural skills, which mean they can identify with people of other cultures better. And of course, well, those are the benefits. And then there are also some disadvantages, which I mentioned previously, like talking about myself of it's really difficult to answer the question, where do you come from? And who are you, for example?
So when you began to develop this interest on third culture literature, were you looking for a specific kind of expression?
Antje Vader, who wrote a book on third culture kid novelists, she concentrates on novelists and these benefits and perhaps I call it disadvantages, but I shouldn't really be calling it in this negative way. But she was looking at these features in the novels written by third culture kid writers. And I was then more interested in the way these authors are represented, for example, on the book covers of their books, what the publishers say about them. And later on, then I developed an interest in songwriters, which is why I found you, because I would like to expand this notion of third culture literature to other artists, and not just to discuss novelists.
So going back to your point about your discovery of transculturalism, what is transculturalism, and what is the difference between transculturalism and the more broadly used term multiculturalism?
From now on, I'm quoting Michael Epstein's concepts regarding transculturalism. And Epstein is a professor of cultural theory at the University of Durham in the UK. And I'm fascinated by his works. He argues that multiculturalism and globalism are very similar in that they share a very important common feature, which is determinism. And in both cases, there is little freedom for the individual. Talking about globalism, a typical example which most people use is McDonald's, because its shops are unvaried in all countries. In multiculturalism, there is a stress of collective identities. So when discussing multiculturalism, we'll often hear about the major and minor cultures. And Epstein sees a transculture as a new level of liberation. So one can be free from one's own culture in which one was born and educated.
Let me see if I can understand this. Transculturalism would allow you to express more the individuality that manifests within culture. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes, so practically transculturalism is taking multiculturalism a step further. And you were discussing belongings a second ago, and according to Epstein, belonging and representations can become prisons. Because you also mentioned this in your book, where there are proud identities, there are also positions fraught with violence. When discussing multiculturalism, we talk about the diversity of cultures, whereas transculturalism is about the diversity of individuals. So more and more individuals like myself, and after reading your book, I would dare to say, like yourself, to find themselves outside of any particular culture or other divisions such as sexual or national classifications. And Epstein proposes that transcultural individuals have no identities and no oppositions, only concrete and multiple differences. And just to give you an example, recently I complained to you via email that it is June and it is so cold here in northern Germany. And I thought about that and your lovely comment. So I thought, what would a transcultural individual do? And I thought, if I stop considering that the weather in Italy, where my parents live, and I know from them that it's boiling hot there, is much warmer than here right now, and accept that there are different climates in different locations, and maybe I will be more at peace.
So you mentioned multiculturalism and globalization. With the advent of the internet and social media, do you believe that all of us are third culture kids to some extent, in the sense that we have all been exposed to so many different cultures, it's hard to pinpoint one specific culture?
The term TCK is really linked to physical transience, because it refers to individuals who grew up on the move. So I'll just give you an example. When we sit in front of the computer and watch a new Bollywood film, this is just an example, we will perhaps learn about different places, cultures, and languages, but we are sitting down comfortably, and we do not have to say goodbyes to relatives, to friends, to pets, possessions, just like TCKs have to do repeatedly when they grow up. But the internet can help TCKs meet online and share their childhood experiences and elaborate on these experiences. But to give you a yes or no answer, my answer would be no.
What's your most Italian side?
Maybe you can cut this, but I'd say...
That's my most Italian side too.
Grazie mille.
Grazie. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and visit us on www.hellomahalo.com. Thank you.